understand what he did, what he accomplished, and how he did it, you have to understand what the world was like in 1980. When World War II ended in 1945, immediately after that, we were in a Cold War. The Cold War was a titanic global struggle between the Soviet Union and the free world. The Soviet Union wanted to keep us so weak, so demoralized, we could never challenge their iron grip on their own people. All anybody wanted in the free world was to be left alone. And the rules of this global conflict were established very quickly. Whatever territory belonged to the Soviet Union was theirs. Whatever territory didn't belong to the Soviet Union was up for grabs. All through the 1950s, the 1960s, into the 1970s, every leader of every Western country had the same objective: to not lose the Cold War. If when you left office, the balance of power was the same as when you took office, or maybe not too much worse, then you'd been a success. In other words, we were playing defense. And when you play defense, you cannot possibly win. You just keep from losing, and that was the game. Well, by the middle of the 1970s, it wasn't going very well. Our economies were stagnant. Our military power was waning. The Russians seemed to be on the march everywhere. We were beginning to lose. And all through the West, more and more intellectuals were coming around to the view that, you know, you just can't keep fighting this. It's just going on forever. There's no way we can ever win. Why don't we just sort of surrender elegantly and cut a deal with the Soviet Union and be done with it? In 1979 and 1980, everything changed when the three most unlikely individuals stepped onto the world stage. They were a Polish Pope, John Paul II, a woman Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher, and an actor turned politician from here in California. I can explain to you the forces within the Catholic Church that led to the election of a Polish Pope. I can explain to you the political rivalries within Great Britain's Conservative Party that catapulted a woman to the leadership. I can even explain to you how an actor became President of the United States. I cannot explain to you how all three of these implausible events happened simultaneously. Unless, of course, you're willing to believe in miracles. And if you are willing to believe in miracles, I'll give you one more. All three of these world leaders survived assassination attempts, which is statistically impossible. John Paul, Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan, they were not content to not lose the Cold War. They wanted to end the Cold War. They wanted to win it. And together, they threw the switch from playing defense to playing offense. And that was the great shift that changed the course of world history. President Reagan knew that to fight and win the Cold War, he was going to need a first-class intelligence service. And that's because President Reagan understood what the CIA is supposed to do. The CIA is the president's radar. It's the instrument he relies on to tell him what's going on out there before it's visible. In other words, to tell him what the future's going to be, and to tell him soon enough and clearly enough so that the president can prepare for the future, and if the president doesn't like the future, well, he can change the future before it happens. And when a president wants to change the future, one of the most potent tools he's got is in the intelligence service, and that's covert action. Covert action means you can go overseas and do something nasty or awkward to our country's adversaries. You can throw a banana peel under their feet, maybe something a little more lethal. And you can do it in a way that doesn't leave American fingerprints all over the place. Well, to find the kind of man to lead the smart, aggressive, intelligence service that he wanted, President Reagan didn't have far to look. Bill Casey was standing right next to him, literally. Bill had managed the president's 1980 presidential campaign. And unlike so many people in Washington who get big jobs because the one talent they have is the ability to push past all the rest of us to the front of the line, Bill actually knew how to do intelligence. Remember, he had done it.